ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our weekly session. We shall continue on Mundaka Upanishad. Today we will start part 2 of first Mundak. We covered the first Mundak part 1 in our earlier sessions, and we saw that in those mantras we saw the origin of the knowledge starting from Brahma, coming down to Angira Rishi, then the question by Sonak Rishi, and then the two kinds of knowledge, avidya and vidya. And then we also saw the definition of Akshar Brahma, how to define the Brahma, and then what is the sequence of origin of this universe, how this universe manifested, starting from the Brahma expanding itself or himself, and then coming An, and then going to Pran, and then Satya, and then all those steps which we discussed. So from Tap it goes to An. An also includes all the five great elements, and then it comes to Pran, the power of movement, and then the rest of it. So we saw these things in the first part of first Mundak. Now today we will take the first two mantras of second part of first Mundak. Now it is says that tat etat satyam, that this is the truth. This is the truth. Tat etam satyam. Kavye yani karmani. Kavye means that the saint Purus, the rishis, the people who acquired knowledge of the Brahma Jnani, they says that in the Ved mantras, they have seen certain mantras which describe karma, that you should do this, this, this. You have to do this, this, this. Now, when we acquire knowledge, the Gyan Marg doesn't tell us to do karma. It simply tells us that you are already Brahma, and you must realize that through knowledge. But then this is the karma they are talking about here. And they say that in all the three Vedas, a large number of karma, or what we call karma kands, have been prescribed. And those people who are interested in acquisition of results of their karma, they should follow this. Sukratasya pantha, that those who want to acquire results of their action, they should follow this. Now this part, the second part of first Mundak, it talks about avidya. It talks about the four Vedas, mentioned here about three Vedas, and the karma kand prescribed there. Now two things we have to understand here. Now they say that these mantras were seen by these rishis. It was not their thinking process. Most of the philosophy in the Western world, it comes out the churning of thought. You keep thinking like an advocate. You keep thinking this should be done, this should not be done, this is right, this is wrong, and then you arrive at a particular conclusion. This is called thought. Now, almost 99% of Western philosophers fall into that category. Their philosophical writings are based on the so-called rational thinking. They argue within themselves and then work out a sort of philosophy. But that is not the process in Vedas. Here, this mantra very clearly says that the, the wise saints saw these mantras during the course of their meditation. And then they prescribed that those people who are interested in the outcome of their karmas, they should follow this path. Now, this is basically for those who are looking for worldly pleasures, whether we are looking for name in the world, fame in the world, we are looking for some desires to be fulfilled, we are looking for money, we are looking for power. So those people who are interested in that field, they should follow these Ved mantras. Now, why this? When the Upanishad is talking about, Paravidya, which is to be fully becoming one with the Supreme or understanding the Akshar Brahm, why it is talking about this? This Upanishad is talking about this worldly requirements because this is the first step, first essential step towards search of the Akshar Brahma. The one must exhaust the root. One must exhaust the feeling that you can acquire eternal pleasure in this world. Once you acquire wealth, you acquire power, you acquire name, fame, then you will realize that this is not going to last long. Today you are in power, tomorrow you would be not in power, and then nobody will bother about you. Today you may be having lot of wealth, tomorrow you become pauper, and then nobody bothers about you. So all these things are not eternal. They are not lasting for all the time to come. They live with you for a short while, and that experience has to come. Unless that experience comes, you will not look for Akshar Brahm. You will not look for that eternal bliss which we are looking for. So this is an essential step. That is why Upanishad is talking about this. So now, this Upanishad, to understand this part, I would also like to expand a little bit on the word yajna and karma. We discussed that briefly when we were talking about the mantras in Bhagavad Gita. But let's discuss this karma and yajna. Now, as per the Vedic terminology, a karma becomes yajna when it is done without the feeling of doership, without desiring anything in return. And when you are surrendering your karma to the Supreme, that you have been sent into this world, and the Supreme desires you to discharge this activities, you do it for him, and I'm not doing anything because I want anything in return or that I am the doer. Now, if you do a karma, if you do an action with this kind of thinking, then it becomes yajna. And that yajna is a separate thing than the karma. Karma basically is sakam karma, where karta is, the doer is there, and the doer desires some results. Like I want to set up a factory and say I want to produce this, and I will acquire so much wealth because of that. And I will be able to employ so many people. I'll acquire fame in the society. As a result, I'll also get some power. So all that is part of this process. So 99% people in the real world fall into this category. And that is why this Upanishad is telling us that these karma kand which have been prescribed in the three Vedas, those are to be followed by this type of people who are still in the first step of their spiritual knowledge. Because once they exhaust this step and they realize that this is not going to give them eternal happiness, then they will go to the part of Paravidya. Then they will graduate themselves to Paravidya. Now, in this context, I would like to mention the story of Yayati. You must have heard about that story. Yayati was a very famous king, and actually he was part of the Chandravans, that is the same dynasty which is of Santanu, which is mentioned in Mahabharata. So Yayati was one of Santanu's ancestors. Now, he was, I don't want to go, there are too many stories associated with it, so I will take the sense of it. He was actually married to Devyani. Devyani was daughter of Sukracharya, who was a great saint, but at the same time he was helping the Rakshasas. So Yayati had a person, a lady who is called Sarmista. Sarmista was a great friend of Devyani, and she always accompanied Devyani wherever she went. So after the marriage of Devyani, Sarmista also accompanied. She was also beautiful. So at some stage, Yayati fell in love with her also. And the Sarmista gave birth to 3 children. Devyani gave birth to 2 children. But it was not known that these were Yayati's children. But at some stage it came out, and then Devyani became furious. And then she went to, Sukracharya, who was her father. Now Sukracharya cursed Yayati that you will lose all the power of your senses and you become old immediately. So from the youth he became old overnight. It just happened because Sukracharya had that great power. And then, Yayati went to Sukracharya, prayed and prayed and prayed. And finally, Sukracharya said, yes, okay, you can recover your youth for 1,000 years, provided one of your sons is ready to take the old age and give his youth to you. So he had 5 sons, 3 from Sarmista and 2 from Devyani. The youngest one, called Puru, he agreed. All the 4 refused. They said, no, we don't want to become old right away. You have already enjoyed part of your youth and let's also enjoy. But the youngest one, called Puru, he agreed. And he gave his youth to the father. And father became young and Puru became, old. Now he lived in that capacity for almost 1,000 years. And he, even at the fag end of his 1,000 year, he was not fully satisfied with the life. He says, I want to do this more, do this more, do this more. I haven't enjoyed this side. I have not done this. I have not traveled this part. I have not, tasted this food. I have not exercised this power. So those desires remained even after thousands of years. Then he realized that if such a long time was not enough for me to be happy in this world, obviously it cannot make me happy at all. And then he turned overnight to spirituality and he relinquished everything. He gave his youth again back to Puru. Puru became the king and he retired in the jungles and became totally spiritual. So that was his first step, to experience this world. to experience the futility of this world, that it will not give you eternal happiness. You will have some transient happiness which will give you some pleasure, but then again it will get converted into, you know, unhappiness, and all kinds of problems will continue. So that is the crux of that story, which is also referred in Bhagavad Puran and also in Mahabharata, is that even if you live for thousands of years and you have all the means to enjoy this life, even then you will not be happy, and unhappiness will continue with you. So this is what this mantra deals with, that this first step, this realization, this world does not give you eternal happiness. This realization must come. And that is why most people are in this stage and they are still experiencing the transient happiness in the world. Once they realize the futility of it, then they will go to paragyan, para knowledge, para, they will discover the Akshar Brahma. So this is why this particular part, or the second part of first Mundak has come into this Upanishad. So this is what it says here. Basically, it says that these mantras which are enshrined in the three Vedas, they have been seen by the wise people in their meditation. This is not the product of their mental what you call deliberation. This is what they saw. They have enshrined those mantras in the Vedas, and these mantras tell you that you can do your karma. If you want to have certain outcome in this world, then you should perform your karma. This is the truth. This is what it says basically. Now, in this context, I would also like to go back to Bhagavad Gita a little bit. There are, in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that this is the verse number 25. दूसरे योगी जन देवताओं के पूजन रूप यज्ञ से ही भली भांति अनुष्ठान किया करते हैं, और अन्य योगी जन परम ब्रह्म परमात्मा अग्नि में अभेद दर्शन रूप यज्ञ के द्वारा आत्म रूप यज्ञ का हवन किया करते हैं. Now, there are two categories here. There are some people who pray to the devatas, to the divine powers. Like some people, pray for Brahaspati, some for Sani, some to the sun, some to the Varun, some to the Indra, the divine powers. Now, those divine powers, you dedicate yourself because you are looking for something. You are looking for some outcome, that my health will be restored, that my son will get married properly, that my there would be peace in the family, that I will be able to get my house in order, things like that. So that is, those who pray to divine forces, they also get their outcome from the divine forces. And those who do not do that and pray to the Supreme Lord, they get a different outcome from the Supreme Lord. So in this part, the chapter 4, there are 4-5 verses. They talk about different varieties of prayers or yajnas, which is done by different people, and they lead to different outcomes. So this is, in this context, it is very important, because those who pray to the divine forces, the devatas, they acquire comforts in this life. They acquired whatever they are desiring, that is also given to them. But then they do not become one with the Supreme. They do not attain the Supreme. So that is the difference. Now, this is also actually mentioned in chapter 9, verse number 20. It says that तीनों वेदों में विधान किए हुए सकाम कर्मों को करने वाले, सोम रस को पीने वाले, पाप रहित पुरुष मुझको यज्ञों के द्वारा पूज कर स्वर्ग की प्राप्ति चाहते हैं. Now, sakam karma karne wale, they acquire swarg. They don't go beyond that. So you have all the pleasures in the swarg, and then you come back to the mrityu lok, you come back to this earth, and again pass through the same process. वे पुरुष अपने पुण्य फल रूप स्वर्ग लोक को प्राप्त होकर स्वर्ग में दिव्य देवताओं को भोगों को भोगते हैं और उसके बाद वापस मृत्यु लोक में आते हैं. So this is in the chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita, verse 20 and 21. So those who are looking for worldly pleasures, for them this part of this Upanishad is useful, that we should perform these activities according to that. Oh, where is it? Yeah. So now let's take the verse number, the mantra number 2 of this part. यदाई हव्यवान ने समिद्धे अर्ची लीलायते तदा आज्य भोगो अंतरेण आहुति प्रतिपादेत. Now basically this means that when you do yagna as per the karm kand mentioned in the Vedas, you should put your havan samagri into the yagya, into the fire. When the fire is at the most, I would say, at its pinnacle, when the fire is burning without smoke, it's absolutely pure. You can see that red, tip of the fire. At that time, you should put the havan samagri, and then it will reach the intended devtaj. Now, this has a science which we must understand, because this looks like something, some people will call it rudimentary, some people will call it primitive, but it is not so. It has a science. First of all, in the subsequent mantras, this Upanishad will define there are 7 different variations of fire. The fire has 7 different dimensions, which will be defined subsequently. The one dimension of that fire is the one when it is at its pinnacle and it is absolutely at its, what you call, crescent and absolutely hot without much smoke. So that is one point. So one of that points, that is the called lelayate, yada lelayate. When it is bilkul garam hai na, bahut uppar us samay. Now, what is this? What is the science? The science is like this. You see, when the water is all over on the earth, in the rivers, in the lakes, also there are a lot of water bodies all around on the earth. With the sun rays, the water goes up and forms cloud. The whole water disappears with the sun rays. The whole water cycle works because of those heating of the water, and it becomes, water vapor and goes up in the sky and forms cloud. Similarly, all the divine powers which are not in manifest form, they live in non-manifest form. How do you reach them? To reach them, you have to think of them first, and then you pray to them, and then you put certain things in the fire. The fire takes it in the form of rage to that destination, that whatever, uh, samagri you have put. So that is the only way you can reach a divine power which is not in manifest form. And this is the way, that is why fire has been considered very important in Indian Shastraj. We know fire is the only element which goes upwards, it rises upwards. This element gives you light and enlightenment. Eh? This element destroys all impurities. Even impurities of the gold are destroyed from the fire, with the help of fire. All the garbage which you collect all over, it is ultimately destroyed by the fire. And it is then taken to the antariksh, to the space, in some form. Even if the whole city, if it goes on fire, the whole city is taken up in the sky. So it is only the fire which takes that kind of action. So it gives you enlightenment, it purifies things, it takes things upwards, it transmits things to the divine powers where it should be. So all those properties of fire, that is why fire is considered very sacred in Hindu, philosophy and Hindu shastras and all the rituals we perform. And that is why the Vedas say that this action should be taken, because you are praying for a particular devta, particular divinity. And when you are doing this yajna, so you should put that, havan samagri at the time when the fire is at its peak, so that it, is taken straight away to the divine power, and the divine power in return gives you what you are looking for. So this is the way to connect. Like, how do you connect with people? The person who is not visible to you. Like somebody is sitting in Mumbai, I am sitting in Delhi. How do I connect? I think of him. Like I think of Rajesh. Rajesh is sitting in Mumbai. So immediately I connect with him, with that thinking. So similarly, with that kind of thinking, you connect with the divine power. You connect with Indra. You don't know where is Indra, how it is, but you think about Indra and immediately you get connected. You think of the sun, which of course is visible, but still you can't reach there. So you have to think of it. Yeah? You think of Sunny, or you think of any other, divine power, uh, say Ganesh. Now, when you think of that, and then you put, uh, whatever you want to surrender to that power, you put that into the fire in such a way that it reaches that supreme, that devta, then it will yield you the results. And this karma kand is important for those who are looking for worldly comforts. And that is why, all the rituals which are done as per the Vedic scriptures are done by those people who are well versed with the karma kand of Vedas. They recite appropriate mantras, you sit with them, you think about that particular devta, then the karma kand is performed, and you have to do all those rituals which are prescribed in those mantras, because these mantras are not uh, a product of a thinking mind. These mantras are seen by the divine powers, and then it has been put into Vedic, scriptures. So this is what these two mantras are telling us. Basically, the power of these mantras is that they will give you, they will, endow you with the physical comforts you are looking for in this world. Now, there are few words here which we have to see very clearly. Tat etat satyam, that this is the truth. This is what this is. This is the truth. This is. Kavyam Yani, that means that the wise people who have seen these mantras. Yeah. And then Satyakama, that those people who are uh, you are dedicated to acquire those worldly comforts. Satyakama means their desires are absolutely strong and truthful, that they want to acquire that and this. So you have to have that determination. In Sanskrit, it is called adhistan. Adhistan means that you have that resolve and you take a vow that I will complete this whole process. Like a Pandit will tell you, okay, you do this prayer for 7 days. Now you take Adhistan. Adhistan means you resolve and you say this, I will continue this process for 7 days and I will not abandon it in the middle. So Adhistan is basically a sankalp, a resolve to complete that process so that the outcome is reached. So that is what Satyakama means here. And Sukratasya. Sukratasya means that those results which will come to you out of those karmas, whatever action you take, the results coming out of them. Sukratasya means sub result, that is positive outcome which will come. And Pantha, that this is the only route for those who are looking for worldly comforts. And then, of course, here this is Lelayate, that is the ज्वाला which is लपटती हुई ज्वाला जो है उसके अंदर डालना पड़ता है, and then only you can reach the intended devta and he will give you the outcome. So this is what the first two mantras of this Upanishad are telling. Now in the subsequent mantras, it will go and tell us that this is what should be done, should not be done. It is somewhat detailed, not really detailed, but somewhat detailed prescription of how these karma kanda should be done. And then at the end of this part, it will say that why this karma kanda should not be done. So this is very interesting. You will see why it should not be done. It should be done and then it should not be done. How it can help you to reach the Devtaj, the power of Agni, and how you can use Ved mantras to reach a particular Devta. And that is what used to happen in ancient times in India. And even when you do the marriage ceremony, you do a housewarming ceremony, you do the Mundan ceremony of a child. All these Ved mantras are recited by these, Pandits, and they perform the rituals according to the prescription of these Ved mantras. But then you have to do it with Satyakama, that you have to do it with full dedication, dedicating yourself. You don't have to do it half-heartedly. If you do it half-heartedly, you will not reach there. And again, just to repeat that this is only for those who are looking for worldly comforts. And that worldly comfort is the first step in the story, as in the story of Yayati, to experience that comfort, those facilities, those acquisitions, to realize that these are not eternal, they are not going to give you bliss, it will not give you eternal happiness, they will give you some happiness for a while, and then again you will get into trouble. So this is the crux of, this second part of first Mundak of Mundaka Upanishad. Thank you very much.